Hello everybody, hope you're all okay. It's a bit strange being at home all the time, isn't it? So I thought we would have a go at doing some story times from our houses. So Mr. Blackburn, Miss Hoban, Miss Edwards and myself will be reading you some stories that you can click on. So whenever you want to see us, we'll be on there reading a story for you. If you've got any suggestions for stories you'd like to hear us read, give us an email, and if we've got them in our houses or we can find a copy of the text, we'll have a go. Okay, so today we're going to read A Quiet Night In. We've all been at home a lot, so this one should be quite appropriate, I think. I want you all in bed early tonight, said Mrs. Large. It's Daddy's birthday, and we're going to have a quiet night in. Can we be there too? Asked Laura. No, said Mrs. Large. It wouldn't be quiet with all you lot charging about like a herd of elephants. But we are a herd of elephants, said Lester. Smarty pants. Come on, coats on, it's time for school. That evening, Mrs. Large had the children bathed and in their pyjamas before they had even had their tea. They were all very cross. It's only 4:30, said Lester. It's not even dark yet. Well, it soon will be, said Mrs. Large grimly. After tea, the children set about making place cards and decorations for the dinner table. They all tidied up, and then Mrs. Large tidied up again. Mr. Large arrived home looking very tired. We're all going to bed, said Lester. So you can be quiet, said Laura. Without us, said Luke. Shh, said the baby. Happy birthday, said Mrs. Large. Come and see the table. Mr. Large sank heavily on the sofa. It's lovely, dear, he said. But do you think we could have our dinner on trays in front of the TV? I'm feeling a bit tired. Of course, said Mrs. Large. It's your birthday. You can have whatever you like. We'll help, said Luke, and the children ran to the kitchen and bought 2 trays. I'll set them, said Mrs. Large. We don't want everything ending up on the floor. Oh, can we have a story before we go to bed? Asked Luke. Please, said Lester. Go on, Dad, said Laura. Just one. Story, said the baby. Oh, all right, said Mr. Large, but just one then. Lester chose a book, and they all cuddled up on the sofa. Mr. Large opened the book and began to read. One day, Binky Bus drove out of the big garage. Hello, he called to his friend Mickey Milkfloat. I don't like that one, said Laura. It's a boy's story. Look, said Mr. Large, if you're going to argue about it, you can all go straight to bed without any story. So they sat and listened while Mr. Large read to them. After a while, he stopped. Go on, Daddy, said Luke. What happened after he bumped into Danny Dustcart? Did they have a fight? Asked Lester. Look, said Laura. Daddy's asleep. Shh, said the baby. Mrs. Large laughed. Poor Daddy, she said. Never mind, we'll let him snooze a bit longer while I take you all up to bed. Will you just finish the story, Mum? Asked Lester. We don't know what happens in the end, said Luke. Please, said Laura. Story, said the baby. Move up then, said Mrs. Large. She picked up the book and began to read. Watch where you're going, you silly dustcart, said Binky. Just then, Pip the police car came driving by. After a while, Mrs. Large stopped reading. What's that strange noise? Said Lester. It's Mummy snoring, said Luke. Daddy's snoring too. They must all be very tired, said Laura kindly. "Shh," said the baby. The children crept from the sofa and fetched a blanket and tucked them in. They covered Mr. and Mrs. Large and tucked them all in. "We'd better put ourselves to bed," said Lester. "Come on, shall we take the food up with us?" asked Luke. "It is on trays, and it's a pity to waste it," said Laura. "I'm sure they wouldn't mind. Anyway, they wanted a quiet night in." "Shh," said the baby. There they are, taking all of those lovely bits of food upstairs to their beds. Okay, hope you enjoyed your story. See you soon.